Salam Aleikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This video is going to be about mainly focusing on the similarities amongst Muslims instead of the very few differences that we have in order to unite all of us, and inshallah starting with uniting Muslims, and then eventually we can go forth and help the rest of the world. I'd like to start off by mentioning and reminding everyone that this isn't to insult anyone. This isn't intended to propagate any kind of wrong messages. It's done with a clean heart and with the hopes of you understanding different points of views of different sects within Islam. Okay, so firstly, I'd like to mention, just want to remind everyone that there are so many similarities amongst Shias and Sunnis. Okay, the 5 pillars that we must follow are the same. Okay, and those people who, sometimes point fingers at one another don't even fulfill all 5 pillars. So it's not fair for them to point fingers at another sect for having a different historical belief as opposed to yours, but then aren't even fulfilling themselves their needs as a good Muslim. Secondly, we all, it's the same Quran that we read, okay, and that we follow and we learn lessons from. So sometimes, we should remind each other of those lessons that were intended to be learned from them and propagate that. What I really want to start off with here is kind of going over something like the assumptions that fellow Sunnis and Shias have towards each other. So one thing first, for a certain sect to make assumptions about a different school of thought is, first of all, it's outrageous. I just want to mention, okay, so just to put into perspective, you can't watch 5 minutes of a video or about a topic that has so much, so much information about and just make assumptions based on that. Okay, so that's kind of like you can't go to school and, skip class all the time and just go to one class and expect to pass. As well as, you've been learning math and, science and all that kind of stuff since you were in grade school, and some people still go up until university learning that because there's so much depth to it. Same goes with religion. So you can't expect to watch like a 2-minute video on YouTube, or maybe read one book and or hear from someone else and make an assumption based on that. Okay, as a lot of people do about different schools of thoughts. I personally don't have an opinion on many other people, and that is because I've never actually went out of my way to learn about it, other than through friends. And so believing what you hear just off the bat it's not fair. So it's kind of ignorant, in all honesty. If you really want to know something, the best thing to do is do your research all on your own, okay? And with the intention of learning and with the intention of understanding why the other person does that, or eliminating rumors or things people tell you that sound ridiculous and it just doesn't make sense. And if it sounds like it's out of this world and it sounds like it's made up, then it most likely is. So it's better to go do your research. And don't forget that you're doing this for a religion that represents peace. Okay, if Allah wanted it to be a religion where we bash each other and make fun of each other and insult each other, it wouldn't be called Islam. Okay, sometimes you need to remind yourself what it is required to be a Muslim in general. Okay, and that means being a peaceful individual. Okay, practice what you preach, okay, and be a good Muslim. So while we're on that topic, when you're making assumptions again about other different schools of thoughts, an example here, I'm going to use, first of all, obviously we all agree that Allah is the ultimate judge and not us. So for us to be pointing fingers is wrong. When you see people, for example, Shias, in the news or on the internet, and they're beating themselves to the extent where they're bleeding or like almost like on their deathbed with cuts all over their head and all over their back, that's the type of extremist Shias. Okay, to base an entire sect on it is illogical. Okay, as goes for people who judge Sunnis based on Wahhabis. Okay, like or Judaism based on Zionism. Like they're extreme forms of them, and it just doesn't make sense to judge them based on that. So you'd be surprised how many people have converted to Islam after the 9/11 attacks. So assuming that that would be something bad, even though a lot of people, there was a lot of controversy about that as to who actually did the bombings, but we're not going to go into that. But that brought a lot of attention to what Islam is all about. And actually, there was a huge number of conversions, or should I say reverts, after that event, as well as, well, about the beating yourself thing. A lot of people actually did revert to Shia because it does bring attention, and although it's bad, people do want to know, like, what is this all about? And when they get to the basics of it, it's actually quite inspiring, and they realize that it's just being misportrayed. If people like that can actually convert their entire religion based on something so uglily portrayed, we need to be civil to our fellow brothers and sisters who are just following their own different faith. I mean, if we're living with different religions, people who don't even have a religion, and we're sharing the earth with them, and we're doing so civilizedly and mannerful, then we must be doing something wrong if we can't even do it with our fellow own Muslims. Again, for people who are so hateful, as we learned in school, like, like during the Holocaust or whatever hateful, like, history there is, even, like, the slave trade and all that, is no one has that superiority. Like, yourself, you're the one who's going to be facing God on Judgment Day. You worry about yourself, propagate the right message, and just hope that someone will follow. And that's your role as a Muslim. But at the end of the day, you can't kill someone because they have a different faith. There are people who are living years and years in jail after murder, and that might not seem fair to people, but at the end of the day, it's not anyone's right to take a life away from someone else. Okay, and these are people who already took a life from someone else. These are murderers. Then what gives you the right to kill people for having a different faith or a different skin color or whatever? It's just not anyone's role. So focus on yourself, and if you're so concerned for them to the point where you want to kill them, try educating them, or at the end of the day, they're going to be facing God, and they're the ones who are going to have to answer to his questions. Don't take that into your own hands. It's really, really sad. Now here is some pictures of the results of when Muslims try to propagate their idea of truth by negative means. So those pictures are quite disturbing, right? But unfortunately, it's the ugly reality, and it's very unfortunate. And a lot of people are forgetting the actual beauty of Islam. So not only are there, hundreds and hundreds of rewords, but they're doing so for a reason, okay? There's a lot of beauty and a lot of peace with the Islamic practice, and it's just not being propagated the right way. And it's because we're too busy portraying the wrong things, such as the little minor details about, who believes who was successor. And you know what, that may be really significant, but in this day and age, with so many other problems and so many genocides and wars and differences amongst people, that should be, at the end of the day, self-opinionated. And at the end of the day, it shouldn't be your main concern to change their opinion about that. If you even go online, if you YouTube things, there's a lot of people who used to practice really, bad jobs or bad lifestyles, and eventually they just felt empty inside, and nothing was coming clear until they started doing research, soul searching and stuff, and everyone has their own ways of doing that, and a lot of people turned to Islam and found out that there was a lot of peace and inner relief that comes with that. So again, this is obviously not to offend anybody. I'm like the least bit racist or whatever you might take out of this like the wrong way, but I just want to mention again that like for obviously my fellow Muslims, like one of my concerns that I'd like to address is our youth. So our youth aren't even wanting to marry fellow Muslims or even are concerned about raising their kids Muslim. It's not a big deal to them because the morals and the values of Islam are being faded away. They're all that's being propagated are the differences and the fights amongst the different sheikhs and all the opinions about things, and no one's really focusing on the basis. And a lot of people aren't giving zakat. A lot of people aren't giving to charity. They're so caught up in today's society and their lifestyle that Islam is just not integrated into it. So if we were to portray and implement the real basics of what Islam teaches, okay, such as the practices of praying 5 times a day and the importance and the significance of it, I think from there they'll actually value what the religion is all about. And I don't blame these people for not caring about who their significant other is going to be or how they're going to raise their kids, because to them it's not an importance. The bigger picture of because in today's day and age, a lot of people are trying to cope with themselves and the stress of work and whatnot, and they're looking for something to comfort them, and the way that Islam is being portrayed is not comforting at all. So they're looking for other means of doing so. They stray away from Islam, and they do things to feel comfort, such as listen to music, listening to Drake, Rihanna, Eminem, a lot of hip hop and R&B, rock music, so that emo things that you can just relate to, and you just feel like there's someone understands. A lot of times you just go want to watch movies, you keep busy with work, spending money, retail therapy and whatnot. But that's all signs of going astray. How often do you get bored and say, okay, I'm gonna go read the Quran, I'm gonna go practice it and see like how much I can memorize, or I'm gonna go make dua, I'm gonna go just be peaceful, just try and increase my spirituality and be close to God. That rarely happens. It's being distracting yourself with these material things that are straying you away. This also leads to a lot of major things that stray you away eventually, when as soon as you lose track of your God, it leads to one thing to another. So this is why we have a problem with teen pregnancy and alcoholics and gambling addicts, etc., etc. And that's just not within our Muslim circle, it's within society itself, and it's because they go astray. So the problem with, again, pointing fingers back and forth is not that you're Sunni and you're Shia and you believe this person and you believe in that person. It's about pointing fingers and being like, yo, put that drink down, come with me to the mosque, yo, let's go fight a prayer. Because if you're looking for comfort, if you're looking for a distraction, make it a good distraction. Make it something that brings you closer to God. And believe me when I say this, you're going to feel more peace in your heart than you ever have before, doing all those things that you thought would distract you. So just a couple reminder here, 2 quotes here that are written by myself, I'm just going to end with. So the Prophet ﷺ spread the religion of Islam. He did not do so through insulting the opposing religions, through making fun of what they did, through hate. He did it by leading by example of the religion. So this is just a note to the people who bash different sects and bash different religions. Please keep this in mind and attempt at continuously being a good Muslim and being a good person. And for those of you who feel like you need to put into action your passion, just remember that hate is the exact opposite of what Islam is about. So it's really unfortunate to have such patriotic traits and people go to such waste and represent the wrong message. So I hope this clears things up for you, and I hope you enjoyed it.